Do you guys think I should wear this for the rest of the video? Hello everyone and welcome to another creator-owned video. My name's Robbie and today we're going to be talking about Something is Killing the Children by James Tynion. This isn't necessarily a book review. I wouldn't really say like this is a book review channel. But I want to look at Something is Killing the Children under the lens of creating comics and specifically creator-owned comics. I think that this book serves as like a really good example of just like a strong introduction to a new series. And there's a lot that the book does well to just sort of be itself. You know, it's a fresh new idea. The stakes aren't too high. It's like not too convoluted, and it really became something that I think was just like, to James Tynion, like kind of just an idea he was working with, but has turned into a really well received new ongoing comic book series. And so I just thought there was a lot of valuable lessons in there that I wanted to unpack. So we're going to take a look at it. So the basic summary of Something is Killing the Children, as provided by Wikipedia, is when the children of Archer's Peak begin to go missing, everything seems hopeless. Most children never return, but the ones that do have terrible stories, impossible stories of terrifying creatures that live in the shadows. Their only hope of finding and eliminating the threat is the arrival of a mysterious stranger, one who believes the children and claims to see what they can see. Her name is Erica Slaughter. She kills monsters. That is all she does, and she bears the cost because it must be done. So I'm going to go a little bit more into that story, and we'll start off with the characters and, you know, how we create this universe. And then we'll unpack everything else from there. So, you know, the very first thing we see in the book, this first page of, I wouldn't call him the main character, James. Like maybe he's the main character, but Erica Slaughter is definitely the central character. James is at, you know, he's having his friends from school sleepover and they're playing Truth or Dare. And the kid asks him, "What's the most scared you have ever been?" And, you know, that's essentially the first page. Right off the bat, this first page is so effective because that's the sort of hook you would want your story to have. And it reminds me of like the bit of advice in Hollis Mason's memoir in Watchmen, like tell like the saddest story you ever had. Like that sort of like heightened emotion thing is so gripping and just like so palpable right from the first few panels I'm drawn into this book. And so James goes on to tell this story about how he's at home and one night he looks out his window and he sees like this monster with like red eyes like staring, and he like hides and waits until he can like feel its presence like disappear. And this like takes all the air out of the room, and all of his friends are like, "Shut up. No, you didn't. Like, why would you even say that? That's not funny." You know, they all have like a strong reaction because it is like truly terrifying and he was just being honest. And so they don't believe him. And so James is like, "Well, truth or dare." And the next page is like, then him in this like room, you know, not maybe interrogation, like, you know, he's answering questions about what happened because all of his friends are dead. He's covered in blood. He's horrified. I just did a couple videos about like the art of pitching, and boy, if this isn't like a perfect example of like a first 5 pages and how you want that first page to be locked in, and then pages 2 and 3 are like, you know, they expand on that, and then there's like this crazy reveal by pages 4 and 5, and like that would be, in my opinion, enough for any editor, even though I'm not an editor, but I am a comic book fan. That would be enough that anyone would look at this and go, yeah, we got to make this book, you know. And it's also supported by incredible artwork, which is, you know, like you need both a good writer and a good artist. But it's so strong, as it should be, because James Tynion is like a well-respected writer who's been in this industry for a minute. While I don't have any credentials, as I'm not an editor, I don't work professionally in comics, but as a consumer of comics for a long time, I have this sort of problem where, you know, I need something new. Like something has to have like a true angle to gain my interest and inspire me. And it's a large reason of why I went to creator owned indie comics some years ago. And, you know, I still read some of the larger published books from time to time, but I did a lot of that in my youth, and I'm good. I got the idea of what, you know, costumes and capes can do for me. And books like this are taking things in like a new direction. And so that's why I feel like you could learn a lot from this book. It also benefits a lot from being like a very stripped down story. We'll get into that. So after James is introduced, we have the 2-page splash, Something is Killing the Children. James Tynion is a big fan of these 2-page. If you've read The Nice House on the Lake, you know, he really likes that sort of intro slide. We've met the main character, James, and now we're on to the central character, Erica Slaughter, who is just getting off of having saved this young girl from some, you know, some undiscernible monster. And Erica is just all right off the bat, you know, this mysterious, deadly, intense character, but then she kind of like lets her guard down and just shows who she really is. And, you know, just kind of like reveals to us like, you know, she's not as much, you know, she is a monster hunter. She is not a monster despite like her appearance. Right. As things go on, you know, James is getting picked on at school. His principal's dealing with him. And so we're sort of leading to a point where Erica is looking for James because she's gotten news of this small town, Archer's Peak, where a bunch of kids have gone missing. So she arrives in town, you know, the sheriff's like, who are you? She's looking for James specifically because he's the person like most attached to this largest scale disaster that just happened, like something that was like big enough news that it's gotten out of the town, perhaps. And so like that's why she's looking for James. And it's you know, it's portrayed as like a small town where like everyone knows each other. It's not like a big news town, right? It's very self-contained. And so Erica meets James and is kind of like, you know, trying to figure his deal out. We have some pages of exposition of what happened to his friends. And basically from there, Erica's like, you know, I kill monsters. And James is like, can I help? He's like, I'm in, right? So he wants his chance to get, you know, vengeance for his friends who died. And that's where these two characters come together with a common goal. The next issue introduces this character, Tommy. Tommy's kind of like the deadbeat townie. His story is that his little sister Sophie is one of the many children who has gone missing, and so he's sort of plagued by that. His mother is like in a depression about it. She's like obsessive about it. Tommy's like, he's kind of wearing out people in the town with how much he's asking, you know, looking for his little sister, and like, you know, he's just kind of meandering through life. He cannot see the monsters because only kids can see the monsters, and also the monster hunters. So like that's the common thing that, you know, Erica Slaughter has in connection with these children. So Tommy goes to his, you know, his dead end job, and while he's there, Erica, this mysterious woman, is with this kid. They're kind of like hard to miss because they're just like so out of place. They're making a plan and trying to triangulate, you know, where the monster might be. We get some more details of like how violent. I love like a violent action hero like that. And so Tommy's a little weary of her because he doesn't know who she is and she's asking questions. So naturally it's like, what does this woman know about my missing sister? Right. Like he's suspicious, and Erica doesn't have much patience for him. There's also like similarly a sheriff in town who has kind of the same deal, like he doesn't understand like this outsider who's in his town. We also get this reveal that Erica has a stuffed animal from her childhood that like is possessed with the spirit of a monster. And so I'm not going to share the whole book because I don't want to spoil too much. Maybe it's a little late for that spoilers, but also like I want you guys to purchase and read the book and support this these creators. So I'm not going to show everything, but kind of where this all leads with all of these intertwined characters is like Erica goes to kill the monster. Tommy follows her because he thinks like she's suspicious, and he's to some degree he's correct because there's all these like dead kids there. This is sort of the mid arc finale, if you will, and what happens is Tommy finds out Sophie's dead, and two sort of big things transpire from here. One is that the monster had babies. So this is like good because we're halfway through the story. The monster got killed, but it had babies. We've added a complication. There's this girl beyond that adds another complication. The other sort of major thing that happens is we learn about the Order of St. George, which is like the monster hunting society that Erica is part of. And she's in the House of Slaughter, which is like her local or regional segment of the Order of St. George, if you will. But it starts to sort of portray the differences in these characters. Like they have different masks. They have different color masks. Aaron, this character, is introduced, who's sort of like the guy in the chair, sort of type, like, the more like suit, the more senior team member who's like quizzing her and like giving trivia, and she's like, I'm out here in the field killing monsters, like you don't know what you're talking about, like. So it adds like another complication beyond just there being monsters, that there's like this bigger issue with this thing, the Order of St. George, where they refer to picking up strays, which I don't know if it's Erica who's seen as a stray or just the fact that she brings in strays like James. But it adds like a layer of complication to it, which is interesting. And without trying to give away too much, we learn that like the Order of St. George in some ways are like the bad guys, because even though they're killing these monsters, what they're more concerned about is like containment of monsters and efficiency. So it's not like about saving lives, it's about containing the threat of monsters. And like they portray this world where like this is like a really big threat and it has to be kept secret in order to like not have the world fall into chaos, right? So the book like really handles like this cool blend of like Hellboy meets Stranger Things, but it's on a small scale. It's very lightweight, and so that's I think enough flavor of what makes up Something is Killing the Children. Again, I encourage you guys to buy or read this book elsewhere. But so now we'll talk a little bit more about the component parts. So there's this interview at the end of the book. I'm always very captivated by like the extra material that gets included in collections like these, because it just teaches you about the creative process and how that process leads to something that is the sum of its parts, right? The first thing they sort of mention is that the book was constructed as like James Tynion was a writer for Batman. Like he had done, the big league stuff and was kind of just looking for a palate cleanser, it seems like. And so he wanted to do this serialized, like this mini series story, was kind of like an anthology, if you will, where there's one central character, Erica Slaughter, but you only get interactions with her via these other characters. And so they would sort of have like their own story, and then Erica would be there briefly, and that would be like the one common theme connecting all those short stories. A lot of that inspiration is still felt present in this book, and as James Tynion elaborates, like as they started making the story, he was like, okay, that's not the story I'm writing. Like, he pitched it as this 5-part mini that was only ever supposed to be this self-contained thing, and then, you know, they realized they had something special that could be a lot more, and they pursued it. But everything I just said, where the characters in the book are like, they're really well developed. Every character has like a plot and a purpose, whether it's Erica, who wants to kill monsters, but you know, that's like, as they say, it's this is all she does. And whether Erica, who wants to kill monsters, James, who wants to avenge his friends, Tommy, who wants to find his missing sister, everyone has like their own motivations, and that's made very clear. And I think that you can sense like that idea of the miniseries thing, because I would assume all of those stories were written, and so we, you know, the writer got time to know those individual characters, because you can sort of sense that. Like, think of the story, the issue, standalone issue of the grieving mother, the small town sheriff who's overburdened, the shy, lonely kid who all of his friends got killed, you know, like the deadbeat townie, like all of that like comes together just in an interweaving plot. And so like, that's why it's the central character. Think of a wheel with all of the spokes that come off. That is the story. Something is killing the children. And so that's sort of the thing that I like, I always want to impress upon people, is like, you know, if you're not ready for a story that takes place in like a small town that juggles like maybe 12 characters, you wouldn't want to go all the way to something like a multi-planetary, crazy, you know, out of this universe storyline, right? Like, these condensed tales, like it's dense and it's full of great material, and it's like what makes this project just noticeable and easy to attach to. Another thing they mention is it takes a lot of inspiration from like modern horror that was like not trying to be iterative, but was trying to be something new. But like, they mentioned that it's like kind of stripped down. Like I said the word lightweight. And so that's something I like about it. Like, they reference movies like It Follows. It Follows is effective because it just gets to like the core of fear. Like, what is scary? Being followed by someone or something that you don't know what it is, right? And that's all the movie is. This is like sort of a rule of filmmaking. Like, if you're trying to make your first film, like Christopher Nolan with ironically, isn't his first movie called Following? But it's like the same thing. It's like something that's stripped down and really basic, and that can be done easily. And not to call this work basic or easy, but it's free of all of the weight of something where like you have to make people understand why it's so important. It's just right there, and so easy to attach to right off the bat. You know, again, thinking of It Follows, like that movie was like shot in Detroit, probably with like a small crew. It was probably really cheap to do. Like, you just want to think of projects that are like manageable, especially at like the sort of scale you're at, which is why, again, I'm thinking like this book could have been just 12 issues, and that would have been fine. The series has continued because it's vastly popular, but if all Something is Killing the Children ever was these 12 issues, I'd say it was like a really well done, effective book, and it left you wanting more, right? Which is like even better. Just some other like takeaways to mention. They sort of talk about how when they were designing the characters, I think James Tynion maybe mentioned like he wanted each person to have a bandana and a doll. Or there's something that sounded like the artist like just kind of put it on Erica and they were like, you know, that's it. But I think those choices to include those elements were really smart because I mentioned like having something stripped down is great. Another irony here is like a lot of, you know, you could sometimes like a great story is like write a good story and then put a Batman cape and cowl on the guy and then you have a great Batman story. But like it should be able to be a good story on its own without having to have Batman there. And there's like a lot of properties like that. Sometimes you get movies where like you can just tell they didn't get the licensing to like Jason Voorhees, and so it's just guy with burlap sack on his face, but you're like, this would have been a Friday the 13th movie if they could have got the licensing. So like the thing I'm trying to say is like by including these elements like the mask and the doll, they're really cool. Like they make it known very quickly that Erica's like a badass, but also that she has this like these attachments to something like childish and innocent. And they just give you like a visual reference for like the two sides of this character. And not only that, but it's something that's identifiable. So it's branding, right? This is they make these bandanas so people can go to comic conventions and wear them and you look like you're in the Order of St. George. This doll looks like something you could have found at Hot Topic 15 years ago. You know, so like in one of my recent videos I say that like merchandising is an important aspect, like, but I try to keep that in mind where not just merchandising, but like characters, I try to make sure they have a unique feature that like something that people can like easily remember who they are, whether they have a beard or glasses or they all have like a different car. That was just like a clever way to make sure that this maintained some level of branding so that it's not like too generic, but it's something unique unto itself. And it started to create this, you know, this very popular universe. And the reason I picked this book up is because like every time I go to one of like the local small bookstores around here, this is in like those staff recommendation selections. So that's it for today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I shared something interesting or a value to you in your own creative journey, something that we can learn from. Something is Killing the Children is just a really good example of a strong introduction to a series. Again, it's very tight-knit and lightweight. There's a lot that it does right, and I think it just shows off James Tynion's chops as like a creator who, you know, knew how to sort of layer all of these pieces together into something really special. If I was, you know, not that I'm an editor of comic books, but I just think that if you like really wrote a good contained story like this that wasn't too heavily burdened but had a lot of places to go, showed a grasp of storytelling, showed good prominent artwork, like I would see this as sort of a no-brainer if this was being pitched by someone who doesn't have too much behind them yet, right? And again, James Tynion obviously comes from comics, but like I say in a lot of my videos, like try to like go the distance and create like a finished product that is like ready for prime time. Like if you can treat your own project with like the same kind of discipline here, I think you'd have a fighting chance at getting your pitches accepted. So that's it for today. I hope you liked the video. If I got anything wrong, you know, please feel free to let me know. I'd love to know what you guys are looking forward to next. If there's other projects similarly that you'd like me to cover. Really having fun doing this channel. Thank you so much for 500 subscribers. Totally blown away. Again, on your way out, if you could give me a like, a comment, a subscribe, a share, anything like that to help it go a little further, it'd be tremendous. So I'm Robbie. This was a creator-owned video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.